What was that, bro? Jeez. Jeez, son. Hey, what's that all about? Hmm? There we go. Do this. There we go. Nope. Get in there, fucker. Oh. Cool. Good. And you, little baby. You're just ridiculous. Take that. Ugh. Take that rope and shut it. Take this job, shove it. I ain't working no more. It's I'm working for. It was initially warm and now suddenly it's cold as shit. It actually wasn't really too bad, but now it's just cold as ice. It's cold as ice. Rain made me sacrifice all Chili, chili. Chili, chili, chili. Little Zorkov. Little city boy. Looks like you have a little cigar in your mouth. Little Zukov. Just a handsome buddy he is. I'll just have to make sure everyone knows. Everyone knows his sweet cuteness of Zukov. Just too damn adorable. What the fuck? Jake Paul's calling out quote-unquote selfish capitalist Dana White for mistreating UFC workers. Jake Paul, out of all people. Wow, okay. I didn't think Jake Paul would actually earn some respect points. What the fuck? Little Zukov, what are you doing? Chewing down your cigar look-alike ride? Is that what's going on? Little psycho. I want to hear about this.
Personality turned boxer Jake Paul slammed UFC president Dana White for mistreating his workers, highlighting a real workers' rights issue that I don't think many people are all that aware of. Now, before I get into this, I want to make something clear.
I'm still shocked Jake Paul's the one to say that.
I am not endorsing Jake Paul. I'm not trying to clean up Jake Paul's image. I don't even know much about Jake Paul, but apparently he has said some dumb things in the past. Okay, whatever. That has nothing to do at all with this video. What I am showing you with this video is you have here a real workers' rights issue being platformed by a major celebrity that has, for the most part, I imagine, a largely apolitical or an audience with bad politics. Here he is platforming a real workers' rights issue, and that in itself is a good thing. Regardless of Jake Paul's intent, regardless of what he has said in the past about other issues, it doesn't matter.
I mean, I agree with that at least. I mean, leave it to fucking Jake Paul to be like, hey, yeah, in the UFC, like, workers here are being treated like shit. Jake Paul's the one to say this? Jake Paul. Like, he's the one to call this out?
A real workers' rights issue that many people aren't aware of, I think, is a good thing. So let me first start with the tweet. So apparently there was more before this. I think Dana White said something about Jake Paul. Anyways, there was a bit of a feud before any of this happened, but this is where the real discussion starts. So Jake Paul tweets out here.
Of course, it's on fucking Twitter.
Happy New Year, Dana White. Here is a real challenge for you. I will immediately retire from boxing and fight Jorge Masvidal in the UFC if you agree to 1. Increase minimum fighter pay per fight to $50,000. It's currently $12,000. Guarantee UFC fighters 50% of UFC annual revenues, $1 billion in 2021. 3.
Damn, based?
Long-term health care to all fighters. You previously said brain damage is part of the gig. Imagine the NFL said that. There are many UFC alums who have publicly said they are suffering.
Yeah, if the NFL's just like, yeah, getting brain damage, you know, getting your head smashed in while playing football. You know, it's just part of the game. Get over it.
You have 5 days to accept and implement the above by March 31st, 2022. Once implemented, I will immediately retire from boxing, enter US ADA, and agree to a one-fight deal with UFC to fight Weak Chin Jorge. All UFC fighters, time to take a stand and create value for yourselves and peers. You deserve higher pay, you deserve long-term health care, and above all, you deserve freedom. Support each other. I am not your enemy. I'm your advocate who selfishly wants to KO a few of you to make some big bang. A massive...
Okay, I mean, oh my god. Of course he has to stroke the ego a little bit, but... you know what? In a weird fucking way, like, it's based? Like, it's fucking Jake Paul, dude. What the fuck? He's the one to do this? He's the one to fucking call that shit out? And yeah, I mean, he has a big following, too. And again, mostly political. So, like, I mean, it's just like, overall, that's just kind of getting that general message of labor rights and workers' advocacy just more out there. I mean, especially to the more average Joe, like plebeian normie types or whatever whatever the fuck you want to call them. But yeah, that's interesting. I'm still like a little flabbergasted. It's Jake Paul that said that. Like, brother of Logan Paul, utter fucking sociopathic cretin, and is related to that guy. It's like, oh, okay.
A legitimate, a real workers' rights issue within the MMA community. Now, I'm going to get to Dana White's response and then another response from Jake Paul in a bit here.
But they have a back and forth?
An ongoing thing. I mean, recently I covered this, fighters win key ruling in case that could upend UFC's business. So this was a class action lawsuit where fighters were claiming that the UFC was suppressing their pay, and they won at least a part of that ruling here. So if you want more on that, I covered this video about a year ago, so I'll link to this below the video on YouTube. But there's also been discussions about a potential union. I'll get to that in a minute as well. But I want to show you that him platforming this real workers' rights issue led to other mainstream outlets covering this. So Bleacher Report covered this. You had the MMA Mania cover this. People.com cover this. Complex.com cover this.
Holy shit.
Illustrated cover this.
I mean, fuck. Shit, like a lot of different outlets are covering that. Fuck. I mean, honestly, as much as it's kind of like bleh and lame, I mean, honestly, having a very notable celebrity type of person, going out there, especially if they're very well known, going out there doing this type of advocacy is legit a good fucking thing. I mean, and regardless of how these articles, paint it, whether it's negative or positive, regardless, it's still fucking press. And that in itself is good.
So having, again, regardless of whatever Jake Paul has said in the past, whatever dumb thing he has said in the past, regardless of any of that, he has platformed a real workers' rights issue that is now, that more people are now aware of that they weren't aware of before. Now, going on to just a couple examples here of how this is a real issue. So this from Bleacher Report. Jacob Volkman, who was 6-2 in the UFC before being released, stated the problem he saw that goes beyond simple fight day payments. Quote, they always claim that they treat the fighters so well. Yeah, they treat the top 5% of the fighters well, the ones that are on the main card all the time. They don't treat the rest of them very well. The healthcare plan is horrible, with a $1,500 deductible per injury. The catastrophic injury insurance is not even really good insurance. There's no retirement fund. There's no signing bonus. And this is a real issue, which is why you have seen...
considering that they're UFC fighters, they probably deserve that shit.
In August, there have been...
considering that they literally go in, actual, Ultimate Fighting, champion shit. They're obviously going to have massive fights and probably get fucked up a little bit and injured. Fundamentally, these people absolutely should, be able to have... not just a union, but also have these type of benefits and this type of pay and actually have good coverage, especially when it comes to their healthcare, more than anything. Because they're getting injured pretty much like every fight, one way or another. Might not be severe injuries, on average, but they will get fucked up. Sprained ankles, fucking, boxer fractures and shit like that. Concussions. They'll get fucked up.
But this has
so
been
they absolutely deserve this shit.
Within the
and it should be fought for
a while. So this article is from 2020. MMA fighters overwhelmingly support unionization despite no clear path forward. So this, again, is going to continue being an issue, and ultimately...
Wow, so that means even heavily supported within the industry, at least with fighters and workers within it itself. But despite that, there isn't a real, organization to it. They have an opportunity, I think... So weird, but having Jake Paul kind of help lead that a little bit might actually be a very fucking good thing. It's so weird that Jake Paul would be the one to do it, but for me, I'm taking it. You know what? Some respect, a little bit. Not gonna lie. It's so weird to be like, oh shit, Jake Paul doing something based. What? Wait, what? What the fuck? This is throwing me for a loop today. What fucking timeline are we in? What timeline is this, man?
Demands here. None of this will be addressed until there is a fighters union, where they have their own voice, where they ban.
I am just kind of
demand
thrown for a loop with this,
and also protection in terms of real health care, especially for the kind of job that they are in. But now let's get to Dana White's reply here. Now, part of this has to do with drug use, which I don't. Steroid use, I don't care about any of that part of the debate, so I'm going to cut just the part around the discussion of the business.
Oh god. I can already tell why he brought that shit up anyway. That's an excuse to not give them compensation and the healthcare that they deserve when it comes to these fights and shit, which is probably why they're doing the substance anyway. Because... what good healthcare and what good type of shit are they actually getting, and what type of pay are they actually getting for that type of shit. So, if it comes to, dealing with the pain or injuries, and alternative means, including substance use, then yeah, they're probably gonna fucking do it. So maybe having, stronger healthcare benefits, very significantly so for these fighters and shit, probably will minimize those fucking problems there, Dana White. Fucking straw box piece of shit.
Thinks that you really wrote that. You're too stupid. And for those of you that don't know, if you've ever watched one of his fights and you see when they do the stare down, the guy that's standing in the middle with the warlock nose and the big warlock wart on his face, apparently that's his manager. And that guy used to be an accountant for me. And let's just say this, he no longer works for me, and I think he's a scumbag. But if you two think that you can do it better than we do, we're doing this whole thing wrong. You could treat the fighters better than we do. Knock yourself out. Go start your own business.
Oh my god, fuck this piece of shit. It's literally just like all arguments like, oh, if you think you do so better than do your own business, huh? Oh my god, I love it. Wow. That's not even a quip.
That Jake Paul brought up just resorts to personal attacks.
Jake Paul, like, advocates worker rights. Fucking Dana White's just like, well, if you think you can do better, start your own business, bitch. You're too stupid to be, writing letters like that. It's like, wow. Okay, then. It's like, well, there's some shots fired, bitch. I can't believe Jake Paul's the one doing workers' rights advocation here. What the fuck? I'm still thrown over a loop over that. And now there's, like, straight up, like, a feud between Dana White and his ass over it. Like, oh, what fucking timeline is this? What the fuck?
But,
what is this?
Dana White going to say? Is he going to admit to underpaying fighters? Is he going to admit to not?
I think he kind of is. If he's like, oh, you think you can do it better? Oh, we do it so well. Just do it yourself. We're not going to change. Oh, you and your complaints. Meh. It's like he kind of half-assedly is saying that he treats his employees like shit. Because he's like, oh, if you complain, then start your own business. Like, he's like, yeah, it kind of implies that he's shitty to his employees.
Resort to
kind of half-assedly admitting it without admitting it.
But let's get to Jake Paul's response to Dana White's response now. This is the last response. This little feud. But Jake Paul wrote here, long story short, you addressed nothing that I said, Paul said on Instagram.
Basically.
When I accepted your challenge, I said I would fight MMA, I said that I would retire from boxing, and you avoided all of that shit. It shows that you are in a corner. You're a dog in a corner trying to fight to save this whole company and the embarrassment that I've put you through. Ooh. Everybody sees it, and what you can't accept or love or appreciate is that I'm trying to change the sport forever, and you are one of the most selfish, capitalistic mother effers that I've ever seen.
Motherfucker. Damn!
You, Dana. I'm the only person that doesn't need you, and I don't give an F about you. But all these people, all your fighters, all of them, they can't say shit because you'll just bench them. You met your maker. I'm not going to stop. Welcome to the show, ladies and gentlemen.
Damn! Jake Paul with the fucking clap, dude. What the fuck? What timeline is this? That's like some shit I'd say to this motherfucker. Like, what? Fuck. Base Jake Paul, what the fuck? I didn't think that sentence would be uttered a few times already, but like, Jesus.
You don't give a F about them, and you're too much of a greedy bitch to pay the fighter.
I love him. What the fuck? What is this?
The janitor makes. You need to pay them $50,000, Dana. Stop avoiding my points. And by the way,
I love it.
Janitors, if they're making that, should also be making a lot more than $12,000.
Yeah, they absolutely should. Like, because that's, I mean, yeah. Like, it's a very specific industry, and especially high-grossing and capital type of industry when it comes to the money-making. But, of course, these motherfuckers like Dana White are only ones that profit off that shit. As far as usually, and all the other workers that are underneath all that, they get, brushed under the rug and pretty much, like, swept aside and fucked off, basically. And it's Jake Paul that's calling it out. Jake motherfucking Paul. What the fuck? Him?
Clear. That's obvious. He's not holding anything back here. But,
and not holding it back. That's what I love. I mean, that's so true. He really isn't. It's so beautiful. Like, that's some shit I'd say to Dana if I had a chance to, be right in front of his motherfucking face. Greedy, capitalistic motherfucker treating his workers like shit where they don't need him, he needs them. Like, those fighters and all the workers that he's underneath, they don't need him. They don't need Dana White. Dana White needs those motherfuckers, and yet he treats them like shit, and if anything, totally dismisses any type of critique they may have. And we'll just throw them under the bus, and if anything, just fire them and remove them utterly, and just kind of like half-assedly kill their career.
I don't really care what his intent here, but if Jake Paul does actually care about changing the industry, then he would follow through with trying to form a union, because ultimately that is the only way you are really going to change it. So, we'll see if he, follows...
Dude, he better. Dude, that Jake Paul better.
On this, but Regardless, this has spotlighted a real workers' rights issue that I think a lot of people aren't aware of. Again, Jake Paul's audience, largely, I imagine, apolitical. Some of them sure have not great politics, but here you have Jake Paul platforming a real workers' rights issue, and that in itself is a good thing.
And I'm still thrown in for a loop. Jake Paul is the guy to do it. And at least apparently is having talks about potentially starting a fighters union, or at least organized for it. I'm honestly like, what the fuck about that? Like, what the hell? That motherfucker? One of the Paul brothers? What is this timeline? Like, one of the Paul brothers is on the right side of things? For once? Wow. Yeah. Take the dubs when you can, I guess. I mean, wow. Follow up with that, Jake. I actually am gonna keep my ear on that story about Jake Paul and his, UFC shit. Like, 'cause that's new. That's a curveball I didn't think I'd see at all. Wow. Okay. That's some news. That's some news today. Fucking Jake Paul. I do know what I think about that, but at the same time, I also don't. Either way, it's good. I'm okay with it. I'm totally fine with that. Marjorie Taylor Greene got banned on Twitter. Oh my god, I love it. It's fucking Marjorie Taylor Greene got banned on Twitter. Oh my god. I am not shocked at all. Wow, I'm not shocked at all. Like, she is just straight up too much of a fucking idiot to even, to really just, do anything. She's just such an idiot. She's just so stupid. Thinks, Jewish space lasers are causing, wildfires in California or some shit. Fucking, I mean, I don't even want to say the details, but, just out of my own sake, but just, the different shit she said about, COVID, oh my god. Ay, 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 oh, Dios mío, cabrón. Definitely a little bit of a nutcracker, to say the least. That's Zukov. What you doing, baby? Oh, fucking... Quit burning. Okay, cool. What you doing, buddy? Surprised you haven't finished our ride yet. You've been going to town on that. Oh, that was right. There we go. Much better. I want to hear more about this.
Well, folks, we're starting the year with some really unfortunate news for all of the Marjorie Taylor Greene fans in my audience. Our queen has been banned permanently. Kind of. No, I say kind of.
Kind of.
Her personal account on Twitter has been banned. However, she still has her official lawmaker account, so she still has the capability of tweeting her misinformation and stupidity. But the difference
I mean,
is
that's
she
all,
can't do
yeah.
it from her more.
Yeah, I mean, at least that's kind of true. I mean, yeah, she still is able to fucking, spew shit and all that, so, yeah. Yay.
And what's interesting is that she had ample warning.
I mean, honestly, it's not that hard to fucking, avoid Twitter bans and suspensions and shit. It's basically as simple as just making a new email and just creating another account. Like, I mean, if Twitter overtly recognizes that you're literally like a photocopy of yourself or some shit, then it'll absolutely delete us, yeah, but, like, for, like, overt ban evasions. But if you, like, wait a while and then make another account, after, like, a month or something, or, like, a few months or whatever the fuck, I'm pretty sure you'd just be fine.
Believe that this is actually something that she wanted, contrary to popular belief. But first, let's get to the details here. Kenny Stansel of Common Dreams explains, Twitter has banned for good the personal account of Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene because the Georgia Republican, a longtime purveyor of anti-vaccine and other dangerous conspiracies, refused to stop spreading deadly disinformation about the coronavirus pandemic. We permanently suspended Marjorie Taylor Greene for repeated violations of our COVID-19 misinformation policy, Twitter said Sunday in a statement, as first reported by CNN's Donnie O'Sullivan. We've been clear that per our strike system for this policy, we will permanently suspend accounts for repeated violations of the policy. In March, Twitter announced that it would permanently suspend accounts that received 5 or more strikes or notifications about posts containing misleading information about COVID-19 vaccines. Nevertheless, Greene proceeded to keep spewing lies about the life-saving jabs, including on Saturday when she tweeted falsely that the federal government was ignoring extremely high amounts of COVID vaccine deaths, the New York Times reported. Now, we'll get to her response, but before we even talk about that, we already...
I mean, it's not shocking. I mean, the reason why she refused is because she just simply thinks that's what literal reality is, and is not willing to fucking, like, break away from that delusion of grandeur and fucking absurdity and nonsense. So it's just like, yeah, of course she's gonna keep fucking, spewing disinformation, because she literally thinks it is, quote, information. And they're just trying to hide the truth from us, because they're just a bunch of soap. They're just a bunch of soap, I tell you.
That will happen as a result of this ban. The free speech absolutists will say that she shouldn't have been banned, and the people who say, well, she violated TOS will defend this ban. And look, when it comes to this particular issue, I don't necessarily care about Marjorie Taylor Greene. It's not a real ban if she still has a way of tweeting. She still has her official account as a lawmaker. But let's just put things into perspective. The only reason why people are even talking about this is because Marjorie Taylor Greene is an elitist, right? She's a political elitist. If I was banned from YouTube, if you were banned, nobody would bat an eye. But because this is an elite, well, it's a story. Because she's a politician, this is a story. So keep that in mind if you do intend on defending her. Now, to Marjorie Taylor Greene's defense...
She's not a elitist. That's where you're wrong, you son of a bitch. She's not a elitist. She's a freedom fighter. She's somebody who's out of the fray and actually, goes in and says how it is. She's not an elitist, even though she literally takes mass donations.
When it comes to vaccine misinformation,
This is a total fucking puppet.
The worst offender here, but I mean, he doesn't necessarily tweet that information. He does it from the safety of his Fox News platform, where they vehemently defend him. So, you can say that there is indeed a double standard. Having said that, though, if I violated the TOS as she did, I mean, I would be banned and nobody would talk about it. So, regardless of how you feel, I think that Marjorie Taylor Greene is coming at this from an entirely different perspective, because I think that she actually wanted to be banned, because this feeds into the conservative persecution complex narrative that she's trying to craft, and also
victimhood complex,
which we will get to. But this is her response immediately following her ban. She wrote on Getter, which I guess is an alternative to Twitter for conservatives. When Maxine Waters can go to the streets and threaten violence on Twitter, Kamala and Ilhan can bail out rioters on Twitter. Wait, threaten violence on Twitter? I don't understand the comment about Maxine Waters. Anyways, Kamala and Ilhan can bail out rioters on Twitter, i.e. donate to people who were unjustly brutalized by police during the Black Lives Matter protests. And chief spokesman for terrorist IRGC can tweet Morning Solomoni, but I get suspended for tweeting their statistics. Twitter is an enemy to America and can't handle the truth. That's fine. I'll show America we don't need them, and it's time to defeat our enemies. Now, let me explain to you my theory as to why I think she actually wanted this. any normal person who saw that they had 3 strikes and knew that a 5th strike would result in a ban, like at strike number 3, at most strike number 4, you're thinking, okay, maybe I should rein it in. I don't want to get banned. I do use this platform. I mean, when I had a strike from YouTube back in 2017, 2018, even if I don't believe that was a just strike, it wasn't my fault. It was a false copyright claim by CBS because I used like 30 seconds of their clip. It falls under the guise of fair use. But even with that in mind, you know, I knew that if I got 3 strikes, my channel was gone, so I had to be careful. I had to change the way that I use clips, at least temporarily, to make sure that I wasn't permanently banned, because that would be bad.
Yeah, I mean, it's just like, I like how, you know, especially with these conservatives, they would rather like quadruple down instead of actually just trying to like, you know, adapt a little bit and try to be a little bit more resilient, because it's just like, I mean, when you have, you know, someone like me or some shit, it's simple. It's just like, you know, adapting, because at least, you know, when it comes to, you know, being banned on Twitch or whatever the fuck, it's like, okay, it sucks, it's bullshit, and obviously I'm gonna complain about it, but, you know, just adapt and keep moving forward, like, okay, so, you know, it's like, I mean, it's like, oh god, no, it's a fucking, I'm literally up here beating up here in this shit, well, even at least, you know, in my case, it technically, you know, is, but it's just like, I mean, I'm not gonna fucking, you know, be some weird whiner, fucking try to make some sort of crazy fucking like martyrdom / fucking like freedom fight warrior-esque fucking battle over it or some shit. I mean, it's just absurd, because they have to like create like this big massive like, you know, drama in their lives basically, where it's like, oh, see, it's like, you know, there is actually something, there is something to this, you know, there is something to my very boring benign life, because they have to create, you know, these weird conspiracies or like these weird, you know, aspects about like how the world actually works, just because of like, you know, 1 or 2 different things that they see, and then like try to connect, you know, dots where there isn't any, like this COVID shit or whatever the fuck, and then just simply, you know, think that's just what the actual reality is and just go with it, instead of actually maybe taking a more critical thinking ire with it and actually adapting, you know, given circumstances and shit.
Just kept going. Now, part of it is stupid.
Like, just not, you know, learning and adapting and changing a little bit due to circumstances like that. I mean, it's like, how you're gonna fucking, you know, one, at least, you know, continue doing whatever you're doing, and then 2, fucking, you know, be able to get that type of message out there aside, you know, from building this victim blame complex and building like a little cult around it.
But additionally, I mean, I think that she wanted to be banned, given what she did following her ban. She fundraised off of this, and her fundraising email that she sent was quite a banger. The title is, "The Silicon Valley Cartel Finally Pulled the Trigger. Twitter Permanently Banned My Account." And she writes,
Silicon Valley Cartel, what the fuck?
Adam Kinzinger and Liz Cheney colluding with communist Democrats like Adam Schiff on the January 6th Witch Hunt Committee to throw me in jail. Wow, she has quite the imagination and misunderstanding of communism. The big tech censors fear me speaking the truth.
I mean, not even just that, she just has a very imaginative and misunderstanding about life.
Me, just like they banned President Trump for exposing the DC swamps, lies, corruption, and fraud. Now more than ever, I need your help to fight back. She needs your help with money, by the way. First, I need
Give me money.
Your stand with
I want to make money off of my false sense of being a victim.
I count on you in the fight against big tech censorship. This is the only way I can guarantee that you'll be able to hear straight from me without being censored. After you sign your statement of support, please rush an emergency contribution of $500 right away. So
500?
Against left-wing cancel culture. See, without
wow, grift, dude. Dude, these fucking, like, GOP far-right fringe fucks have just basically taken the Trump tact of just grifting and just literally stealing money out of people, dude. Like, $500 fucking dollars? What the fuck? I guarantee you that's basically all the savings accounts of, like, most of her fucking base. Like, that's their savings. Like, 500, like, jeez. I can maybe, you know, see 50, but, like, because that add up over time. I guess she really wants it to add up.
For contribution.
Give me 500. I want your money.
Gave, like, a lot of money. So
I'll spend on Twitter.
I think on how much that donor in particular gives, but without that $500 donation, see, she wouldn't be able to fight back against big tech censorship by just saying stupid things and incoherent things on, like, Steve Bannon's podcast. See, as a lawmaker, someone in a position of power, she couldn't, say, introduce legislation to fight back. No, she needs your money to fight back. She's definitely not taking advantage of you. No, if you support Marjorie Taylor Greene, you are not being duped by her. No way, no way.
No,
So look,
we're just freedom fighters that say the truth what it is.
she's banned, and I honestly think that she likes it. Now, of course, this is just speculation,
does.
but a lot of people on the right kind of like being martyrs because it helps them, regardless if you're a politician or a podcaster. If you're a politician, you could do what Marjorie Greene did and fundraise off of it. If you're a podcaster, you can get banned and then say, hey, everyone, I really need you to support my Patreon or Substack or whatever. So, I think it's a win-win for her. It's a win-win for the right. It feeds into their narrative.
I mean, honestly, because it's just literally a grift. I mean, because most of these motherfuckers are just con artists. Full stop. I mean, from the Ben Shapiro's to the Ray Dubins to the fucking Marjorie Taylors to like, all these motherfuckers are just grifters. Just fucking con artists that are just like, hey, I'm gonna sell you, like, political hopes and dreams and shit, like some weird far-right fantasy, because, your lives are being swept away with the communist and democratic agenda. Or whatever the fuck, with the Silicon Valley cartel. It's like, what the fuck? Hey, little boy. He's so cute. He's a sweet little boy. You little treat. Little treat, yes, he is. Up. Good boy. Man. Oh. Gotta love these con artists, grifter fucks. Especially when they love to just try to paint themselves as a victim. Man, fun news for today. Jake Paul doing base worker rights advocacy, and fucking Marjorie Taylor Greene proving herself further to be a goddamn con artist, grifter piece of shit. Who would have thunk? So Coffee, just such a sweet boy. And part of me even wants to fucking give you another treat. Do a little twofer. Let's see, what else random little fun news bits and shit are going on? Let's see here. Is it on the good old Kyle side of things? Nope. Boo. Dukoff, what are you doing? What are you doing, you little freak? What are you doing? I don't trust you. I don't trust whatever you're doing. Yeah. Licking your little lips. You know what? I shouldn't, but I will. Sit. Good boy. Pop. Lay down. Good boy. Good boy. This sweet little baby. Yes, he is. Toto Zukov, that handsome little dog. Just a handsome little dog he is. There. Wow. It's really not that much else going on, too. News-wise. Lovely. Yep, straight, just nothing. Lovely. Lovely. Zukov, what is up, dude? What you sniffing around for? What are you sniffing about? What you sniffing about? Hmm? Yeah? Give me baby, baby. Oh my god. She's just gonna sit there now. She'll be like, no. I know what you're gonna do. You're gonna hold me. I don't want to be held. I don't want to be on your lap. It's rough and it's hard to, have a little footing. Because I'm a little flop noodle. You're a damn noodle, Zukov. Utter noodle. Oh, look at Zul. Look at Zul. Why? Why do you do that? You come over here for attention, scritches, and loves, and then they're just like, no. I'm not gonna be near. Whoa. So what else is on the mic? Figueiredo's show. Oh, what the fuck? Fox guest blames climate extremists for scaring people out of having kids. What the fuck? Yeah, like, climate extremists are totally the ones who are doing that. Like what?
Fox News recently brought on a guest named Douglas Murray, and they're going to have a conversation about more and more people not wanting to have children. Now, the poll that they cite doesn't specifically say that it's because of climate change, but they assume that the reason why less people want to have children is because of climate change. I think it's probably a number of reasons. Climate change definitely one of those factors that is making people less likely to want to have children. But still, the conversation that they had here is going to be very, very unintelligent, as you're going to see. So let's listen to them, and then when we come back, I'll explain to you why what they're saying is stupid.
A growing number of Americans never plan on having kids. A recent survey revealing 44% of childless adults plan to stay that way. That's up 37% in 2018. And in a brand new op-ed, our next guest argues, quote, climate change extremists are to blame for this, for scaring them out of having children. That man joins us now, Douglas Murray. Douglas, how would they relate?
Well, the two recent polls showed, first of all, unbelievable levels of climate anxiety among young people. 2/3 roughly are saying that they, on a daily basis, are afraid of the future. And then you have this study that shows that what it says will be
I imagine there's like thousands of different variables that could probably be at play, like just simply the personal choice to not want kids, or maybe, they just aren't in a financial position to have kids, or maybe just not necessarily responsible, people, so they don't have kids, just to, avoid taking on responsibility they don't necessarily want, or necessarily can handle. And then, there's being sterile, too, as well, or, doing, a vasectomy, for whatever various different reasons, whether, again, personal choice, medical, or otherwise. It could be genetic factors where, you have a higher chance of having offspring that have, more genetic mutations or whatever the fuck. There's various different reasons.
Fall off in reproduction
Zukov,
that's
what are you
been
doing?
recorded from people saying they just don't
Zukov,
want to have
come
children.
here.
Now, we have very prominent
Get over here.
figures in America who've led the way on this. Congresswoman
Drop.
AOC has said,
What?
we've got to discuss
No.
whether it's ethically right to
No.
have children given the climate crisis. Pop stars like Miley Cyrus have said, I'm not reproducing until the marine situation is exactly right. I don't know what's going to happen when the fishermen are going to come to Miley Cyrus and say it's okay out there again, Miley.
Right.
But these people are listened to, and crucially, the politicians across the...
Could it be the fact that 90% of large ocean fish are gone? Could that be probably it?
saying, They used to say you've got 24 months or a few years. You know, the other week, Boris Johnson said we've got 1 minute to save the planet. This isn't informing people, it's scaremongering. It's causing young people, as we see, anxiety.
Starts very
Isn't Boris Johnson like a more conservative type? Like, wait, huh?
early in his
Oh my god. Is that it? Wow. It's like, how dumb and extreme is this, dude? Like, where Boris Johnson is like to the
you know, it was
left of
pointed
him.
out too that we've had these alarmists for quite some time. Prince Charles, by the way, at that very same Glasgow conference says we have 18 months.
Yeah,
18 months to save the world.
He's been saying 18 months for about 18 years.
Right.
I don't know why he doesn't change his clock or his watch.
Also, in 2004, a major UK newspaper said civilization will be destroyed by 2021. So we only have 3 weeks to live.
Yeah, you know, the problem with all of this is when you're an adult like us, we've seen this happen. Most of the American public...
Let's cherry pick different little things and then, like, you know, make funny little jokes about it because we don't actually have talking points against this.
It's quite possible you believe this, and the stats show that they do. They actually believe that they're not going to grow old. They actually believe that if they brought children into the world, those children will burn to death. They've got the strange medieval-like patron saint Greta Thunberg.
Like, what is this weird-ass fucking, like, hyperbolic nonsense? Like, what the hell?
Them the same thing that is. It's sort of prophetess of doom. And if
Prophetess
you're young
of
and
doom?
you believe this, I'm sorry, you know, the adults need
Prophetess
to
of
change the narrative.
doom.
The adults need to say, look, you know, there are issues with carbon emissions, but we can solve them. There are issues with this, but, you know, if you want to take it to somebody, take it to China that's still building hundreds of coal-fired fuel plants every year. You know, but that we're human beings. We've got...
Because of fucking capitalistic interests that outsource to places that have less environmental protections and regulations and worker protections and shit because they can make a lot more fucking money off of that. Starting to get a little closer to the actual issue here.
We're not fated, you know, and I said I quoted in that piece in the Telegraph, very moving sermon that C.S. Lewis gave in Oxford in the autumn of 1939, and he said, if we human beings had waited for the optimal conditions to be in place, we would never have done anything.
Right.
As C.S. Lewis said in 1939, human life was always lived on the edge of a precipice. Now, as it happens, we're not living on the edge of a precipice at the moment. We're living in the luckiest time in history, but it's time we communicate that to young people. Otherwise, literally, there will be no future.
Well, guess what? We're not buying it, bitch. Because, yeah, maybe working, like, you know, minimum wage fucking jobs that haven't improved or, you know, gotten the wages improved overall when it comes to the actual conditions of the workplaces. Like, maybe that also has a major fucking role in not having kids because of the fact that there's this hyper-capitalistic, you know, system where it's more about, you know, how much, you know, time do you take away, you know, for the boss and shit versus actually, you know, time for yourself, which includes to maybe, you know, having kids or taking care of your kids.
The program said we had 3 years to save the planet. Maybe pointing out some of these alarmists, how they fell flat on their face and should be embarrassed by their statements, would help everybody. That would probably help. Douglas, thanks so much for coming in, expanding on your column. Great to see you.
Notice how him saying that we'll, quote, have no future because less and less people are having children, that in particular doesn't qualify as scaremongering. But people just worried about the habitability of our planet long term, they're the ones who are scaremongering. If you pretend as if we're going to go extinct because less people are wanting to have kids, that's fine. You could scaremonger about that. Climate change, you're unreasonable. It's incredibly hacky and stupid. And honestly, the first thing that I could think about as a solution, if they're truly, you know, worried about climate scaremongers and how this affects people wanting to have children, is to fix the fucking issue. Rather than using that platform to lie about climate change and continuously moving the goalpost. I mean, we went from it doesn't exist to, oh, well, climate is always changing. You keep moving the goalposts, but I mean, rather than actually being mad at people for being fearful of climate change, stop lying about climate change and instruct people in your own party, the party that you do propaganda for, to
like the ones that even Boris Johnson have to fucking accept. Like, where the fucking service in places like even the goddamn UK and shit, you know, have to fucking be like, yeah, there actually is a little bit of an issue here. There's actually a bit of an issue here.
If you truly think it's that big of a deal, then the solution is take care of climate change.
Like, straight up British conservatives are somehow more fucking, like, environmentalist than goddamn fucking, it's like the conservatives in our country. That really should just kind of say how far, the Overton window has shifted, to the right on this
will want
issue.
to have kids. Now, Douglas Murray
Jesus
talks about
Christ.
how it's because of scaremongers like AOC and celebrities like Miley Cyrus, but I don't think that it's unreasonable to not want to have kids because you don't know what their future is going to look like. Look, I don't know what the future is going to have in store. The problem is that we don't know, and it looks grim. It looks bleak. Even if climate change wasn't an issue, the rise of fascism, the decline of democracy in the United States and around the world, that in and of itself might kind of deter people. But climate change is an issue that I think about. I mean, I have a nephew who's 7, another nephew who's 3.
I mean, at least for the whole, aspect of fascism and all that shit, I mean, that's at least something that could be dealt with more directly and be more addressable.
And 1. And I think, what is the world going to look like by the time they're old? When they're in their 70s and 80s, if they're lucky enough to live to be that long, what's the world going to look like? Is there going to be wars over water by that time? I think probably by the time we're older, we're going to see wars over water, but what is the world going to look like? Will we see mass migration by that time?
Yeah.
We don't know. And that uncertainty...
There's a lot of instability that's, coming up.
To deduce that maybe I don't want to bring a kid into this world if it's going to suffer. So it's not like this is really an unfounded fear. Again, it's not just climate change that is driving this trend. I also think it's the economic situation. I mean, millennials and Gen Zs, they can't buy cars, they can't buy homes, they're, strapped with student debt. The economy doesn't work for them as it did for their, parents' generation and grandparents' generation. So there's a lot of things driving this trend. But Fox News is going to just basically shit on people because they are rightfully concerned with climate change. And that's just wrong. You're part of the problem. You're part of the reason why we're not taking action to stop climate change. Because this network lies repeatedly, and Douglas Murray lies as well. Now,
just being the meme of the dog sitting in a house that's literally burning down, just being like, this is fine. This is totally fine. Yeah.
A
everything's fine, guys.
UK newspaper.
What's wrong?
That supposedly said that civilization would be destroyed by 2020. Okay, first of all, I don't know which unnamed newspaper you're talking about. Are we talking about the Daily Mail? Because not necessarily the most credible. Are we talking about a tabloid? Even if this was a reputable organization, even if it was The Guardian, still, because one person wrote an article that was hyperbolic and sensationalist, that disproves all of climate change, I don't think that he realizes how this doesn't actually prove his point. Kilmeade also said that in 1989, UNEP said that we had 3 years to save the planet. Now, in particular, I think I know what quote he's talking about. Now, he's bungling the quote, first of all. He's misrepresenting that quote. The quote that he's referring to, it doesn't say that they have 3 years to save the planet, if I'm thinking of the correct one. It says that we have to fix climate change by 2020 if we want to stop it from being irreversible, if we want to stabilize the climate. And in particular,
which is a little different. I imagine that's a very stark difference when it comes to that.
Person at UNEP said in 1989, entire nations could
it's like the world's gonna die in 3 years, and it's like, hey, maybe just to address it within this timeline, so it's something that can be reversible. There's a little bit of a difference there.
Earth by rising sea levels if the global warming trend is not reversed by the year 2000. So if this is the quote that he's referring to, then, I mean, I don't think that that's that far off for the time, right? Saying that it's really important that we get this under control by 2000 so it's not irreversible, I don't think that that's that far off. I mean, it's to the point where it may
if anything, that's actually quite an understandable type of position.
Already be irreversible. I think that's yet to be determined, but either way, climate change is already here. It's not some distant thing. It's already happening. And
I mean, I love it. It's like, we need to, just like the same thing, nothing to worry about, all is good. And then it's just like, the endless fucking data, the endless peer-reviewed science and shit, there's just too much fucking, blaring in the fucking sun, kind of literally, in some cases when it comes to this shit. It's like, but all's good though. Zukov, man, you're being a little pain in the butt right now. Like, what the hell? Yeah, you little... 'Cause, 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 Anyway, but I need to head off to work and do my shift for the fun grind of the day. Hopefully it's just as chill, if not chiller than it was yesterday. I'm hoping for that. But anyway, I'll be back in a nice little later evening, so